Rats to here to continue my video blog series on the team match between the Army of Brotherhood and my free video lessons group. Right now it stands 37.5, 27.5 to the Army. Let's scroll down for a moment, look at the bottom. Here's the match total. A lot of games, huh? See, 37.5. The one thing that's hurting our team is down at the bottom where we had a rating advantage. We're losing all the games. We haven't won one up until board 198, and maybe our guys overestimated or underestimated, I should say. And there's been the proverbial timeouts that plague matches. Here we're not seeing any down here. Here they start showing up, and they're about even. I think somebody made a stat, but there was a couple that just popped up today up here on board 5. You know, these games just reached the opening, and whoops, somebody didn't log in for 5 days, and there goes your game. Okay, you're hurting your team, both of it. I mean, it's happening on both sides. And so far, I've just noticed 3 people banned. Here's one right here. He was banned and then timed out. We have one that's been banned that hasn't timed out yet. It says he's on vacation. It's kind of funny. Okay, so eventually his time will run out, and we'll lose these games down here on board 37. So there'll be 2 points for the Army coming there. I've already announced that in the team notes. Let's see. Let's take a look at these games here. See, this one's entered. There's a checkmate. We haven't seen this one yet. What happened here? How could someone be 2 queens and a bishop ahead? Well, promoted a couple pawns probably. Okay, let's bring it up, see what happened. Okay. Budapest. Okay, so this is kind of intriguing. I haven't said anything. Let's back this up. I haven't seen a move like Queen D4. What it does is well, I'm not really familiar with this. It puts some pressure on the Black Knight, stops Bishop Z5. So Black just is willing to gambit a pawn, and so Black's down a pawn, and White sees another one on the take, and he takes it. But this is kind of risky. You know, you usually don't want to bring your queen out too early, but you know it's kind of tempting. There's a tempo on the rook. It kind of forces Black's reply here. Bishop E5, because Queen F6 to guard the rook would just let White trade queens. But now the White Queen's a little bit of trouble, so White counterattacks. But this costs him a piece. So whoops. You know, that's costing him more than that. You know, look at this coming down now. This bishop's coming down, grabbing a pawn on B2. How can someone miss a continuation like this? Okay, because for the result, Black's up a rook. Okay, and this has happened in the first 10 moves. So let's back this up and see if somehow White couldn't have done anything different. Okay, the queen's loose. Where do you put it? Well, you can take the rook with check. That's not very appetizing. The queen doesn't really have a retreat. Okay, so when White grabs this pawn, he's got to anticipate a move like Bishop G5. You know, when you send a piece out far beyond into enemy lines, they can get trapped easily, and sure enough, that's what happens here. Black does have a threat here. Bishop B4 check. That would win the queen, right? So what White needs to do is maybe play knight F3. So the queen has some protection, but then black's just going to play knight c6, and he's got a lot of development for his pawn. So that's one of the ideas behind this opening. But obviously, white just simply moved too fast. Just didn't calculate. So, whoops. Well, we've seen this anyway. And now white's got a couple pawns for the rook, but that's not enough. And well, skipping. I'm hitting it. It's going twice. Now black can just start liquidating pieces, and there's nothing white can do. Waving the bishop back and forth. Trade me, trade me. He doesn't want to trade. Okay, I don't blame him for not wanting to trade, but it's a relatively easy game. There's not really much commentary on here. Black is still a rook up. He's got one pawn back, it looks like, of the two that white had in compensation, but that's not adequate compensation. And oops, there goes a piece. So white could safely resign. He's down a rook and a minor piece. Oh, wow. Why is it skipping forward? Okay. And black's just trading white down. They could play bishop h6 and trade off another piece. Yep. And it just loves to skip. Gosh. Okay. There goes another piece off the board. Now black's just playing to take white's army off the board. White defends it. Hey, I'm going to get that pawn off. Now there's a threat of mate, but unfortunately, if it was black's move, black could deliver mate, but unfortunately, white has to relieve the mate. Now that means he has to move his rook somewhere. So it almost lends to one of those things, can white desperado his rook and get a stalemate? Well, unfortunately, no. Like rook g8 check, clears g3 for the king. So, yeah, black wants to trade, white doesn't. And it's just skipping, but it doesn't really matter. Okay. Now, I don't know why, but they're playing so quick. I guess it doesn't matter that they're not resigning. There's a game I'm going to show you in a little bit. Somebody lost on time where he was winning. That's pretty much unforgivable. And now the rest is pretty routine. It's just a matter of chasing that king down, run white out of moves, and make the queen, and start sending the if moves, and boom, there's mate. Okay, so very nice game for black. You played a nice gambit, and you found the right moves when white got greedy. Okay, so let's go back to the match, and come on, here we go. See what else we'll look at here. Okay, let's see. I think that was board 60, right? Yeah, that was board 60. I may be skipping some. I'm just going to have to get in there and check them all. Look at that. One move, no reply. No reply. Didn't even show up. Shame on you. Chess is so fun. Don't stay away from chess.com. Come every day. Okay. It was board 120. This is a case of somebody losing 2 games on time, and he was winning 1. Is he losing this one? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how he's doing. But looks like he lost a lot of games because his rating has gone way down. Sometimes life gets in the way. You just can't log in or whatever. But we'll take a look at these. But I think he was a piece up in the other one. But we'll run through these real quick. Now, the Marshall defense is not to the Queen's Gambit. It's not the best. White's supposed to play c takes d, knight takes d, then knight f3, and that's supposed to give white a nice game. And you guys got to look it up if you're going to play this stuff. Okay, uh, you don't play e4 right away. I knew that back in 1972. Okay, I was a kid. I was 17 years old, and one of my friends who was 15 taught me that. And I still see it mentioned today. That's the way to play it. Okay, so I don't know where this leaves theory. White's got kind of a crummy bishop on c1, but really White's position doesn't really have too many weaknesses. His pawn shield in front of his king is slightly weak, but it shouldn't be a factor here. Okay, White's got the bishop pair, but that bishop on c1 needs to get in the game. How can it do that? Well, it's difficult to say. Okay, now there's a weakness on e6. He just gives up the pawn. My goodness. You can't just ignore this pawn. Okay, it just black does not have to lose this pawn. It can be secured. Queen e7. Anyway, moving too quick. How can you miss a pawn on the take? Okay. Oops, there goes another one, undermining the defender of e4. Now White's 2 pawns up, and Black lost on time. Well, White's got a winning game here. Doesn't even have to worry about his bad bishop. It'll get active soon enough. White'll redeploy the queen, advance e4 and f5, and there's not going to be too much Black can do to stop it. Okay, so let's look at their other game. Even though it's a timeout, it's worth making a video. And because it's a game played at chess, and it went deep enough to where video is worthwhile. So like this position, there's no need to make a video on that, right? But we can come down and do it here because hey, White won both. The Army won both games. It's not his fault the guy didn't show up. White was going to. Shiva Krishna was going to win that game, but I think he was going to lose this one. Or maybe I have it wrong. No, he's down a piece here. Okay, so that's a swing of 2 points in the match. If he plays and wins them, instead of 37.5, 27.5, it's 36.5, 28.5. We're only down 8 points. But White lost this game on time. Let's see what happened. Okay, Scotch game, pretty quiet. Very, very even type position. Now, that seems to be a mistake. Doesn't White just win a piece right here? I mean, this is a theme. What am I missing? It has to be moving too quick. It's a simple tactic. You see the queen attacked and you move it. What happens if you play bishop takes? Okay, well, you might lose this pawn down here. Let's take a look. But does that matter? If you lose the pawn, you're winning a piece. I mean, the rook's on the take, but we can cover that, right? It's knight d2, and White wins a piece. What else can Black try? Bishop takes? Well, that doesn't work. Bishop takes. I mean, this is just a common tactic that's in elementary beginner chess books. I mean, you should know this. Let's but Black still managed to lose a piece here in a minute because the position showed him a piece down. So now that just seems to okay. It allows bishop d4. Maybe I'm overreacting because I see White stepping into a pin. But is that really a pin Black can exploit? No, I guess it isn't. Okay. Now he wants to chase the bishop so he can push his f-pawn. Now he breaks the pin on the knight. Now that seems wrong, just opening up your king. Take, take. And black steps into a fork. Oh my goodness. Okay. So this is a case, obviously, that black sees a pawn and he doesn't think. He doesn't think beyond, analyze. Knight takes. Oh, look, there's a free pawn. And he's slamming the door shut and he's not looking any further. Well, you've got to analyze in chess. I mean, see what your opponent's planning. I mean, if anything, white can get back the pawn on c6. If you don't, I mean, winning the piece is great, but let me illustrate. This pawn is in white's way. This bishop is not doing anything attacking the king, and so you would, even if you'd fail to see the fork, you might logically say, well, he'll take my pawn. Okay, I can take his bishop, but you've activated the white bishop. See, this is generally something you don't want to do. You don't want to make exchanges that increase the mobility of your opponent's forces. Don't take and let him bring a reinforcement into a good square, or don't make a pawn exchange that gives your opponent a nice diagonal. I mean, we've seen several cases of this already. So white grabs a pawn, or black grabs a pawn, and white just says, hello, this is a fork. And although black has 2 pawns for it, that's not enough. White will win this, but white lost on time. How does white win this? Well, lots of ways. Okay, we've got e1 covered. There's a free pawn. Let's take it. Okay, let's just take it. That's one way. Black will be ground down. What else can we do? We can leave you with the pawn and then say, let's trade some pieces. And if black trades, white's on the e-file, and black will have to vacate because, well, maybe not. Maybe black can get some compensation here, but it really shouldn't matter. I'll show you what I mean by compensation. White's up a piece. See, black's going to get to the 7th rank. Where do you want to put the bishop? Let's put it on c3. And like I say, black gets to the 7th rank. So now black's going to collect a 3rd pawn, it appears. But he had to go into lose his queen and his rook, get traded off. But, white should still win this. It's probably better to just grab that pawn like I was saying. Black can triple on the file. Now he's actually threatening a back rank mate, but fine. We'll stop that in a hurry. It's white's game. Okay, so anyway, credit to Shiva for not resigning, because had he resigned a piece down, he wouldn't have won this game. They say you can never win a game by resigning. Well, this game is proof thereof. Okay, so let's see. What other games do we have that have popped up? I know quite a few have popped up. Let's see, that was board 120, correct? Yep. Okay. I think I got that one. I've got a list of all these, but it's a lot of work maintaining it, simply because there's so many games I've done and so many. Let's see. No, this one never even started. This guy, gone. I think that was our first forfeit loss. Okay, I think we only covered one of these games. Let's see. I'm not sure which one right off the top of my head. Our team has won both the games. Let's bring one up. Which one did I cover? I think I covered this one. Let's see. If it rings a bell, yeah, I remember criticizing h6. Let's see. How does black lose his queen? Oh, he gets it trapped. Yeah, we covered that one. So we didn't cover the other one. Okay, up we go. What board was that? I gotta remember to put these memories, or put the board number in the back of my head. So I don't think we covered this game. Looks kind of brutal. Pawn on the 7th rank. About ready to promote. I don't recognize this game, and I'm pretty sure I didn't cover it. Okay, so Sicilian defense. Now, closed system. See, here we have these moves again that I've talked about. These are bad moves, okay? Don't push your rook pawns up like this, okay? I see it so many times in the lower ranks. It costs you 2 tempos to do it. It weakens your pawn structure. It doesn't develop your pieces. Just bad news, okay? Black is not planning to put a piece on either of those squares, okay? He's not. So let's see if and when those weaknesses become a factor. Okay, d5. b5 was another alternative. Now the bishop, at least the bishop had a flight square here, but then it had one on c2 also, but so this is an interesting move. I've talked about this concept before. What's the best way to meet a wing attack? Well, with playing the center. Okay, so white's playing on the wing, and black counters in the center. Uh, let's see what transpires. Black doesn't have enough firepower on d4, but he's removed the defender of the pawn on c3. And by taking on a2, he's kept from getting a weak pawn on e6. So now black basically says, hey, look at this. I've got 2 connected pass pawns, and you have 2 center double pawns. So could white have avoided this in any way, shape, or form? You know, like we're saying, the best way to meet a wing attack is play in the center, and d4 seems to do that. It attacks a piece, so white either has to move the piece, trade on e6. He could Zwischenzug and trade on e6. That might have been better. Let's take a quick look at that. Let's see, we're on move 14, right? I'll have to come back to 14. Okay, black can't stop and take on e3 because white will collect the rook on c8. So here I'd mentioned a weakness in pawn structure that black was avoiding. Well, white could have forced it. Now we know that if we take this pawn on d4, that black's going to take on b4. So let's not take on d4 with our pawn. Let's move the bishop. Where do we want to put it? Let's try g5. Actually, let's not try g5. Let's try f4. And the reason is that we've made this h3 move and made a flight square. Although it could run into a discovery, knight d4. No. Okay, so let's put it on g5. Okay, there we go. Now, if white takes, or black takes, let's see. If knight takes c3, we're going to drop a pawn, so that doesn't work. And if we take here, it goes, whoops, whose move is it? Oh yeah, It's white's move. So let's not put the bishop on g5. Let's put him on d2. That way we can answer that with this. But black has too much firepower on b4. See, they're just going to be able to take it. One way or the other, black's going to be able to take it and get his two connected pass pawns. So we're going to go back to move 14, as I said. So d4 is a very nice move. Well played. Okay. And black has collected a pawn. Now this, to me, is an ideal position. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what he does. He's going to do it next move. But just bring this knight on f6 over to d5, and you have a nice blockader of the isolated pawns, and the black knights are just dominating. But this is okay. The black knights rule here. The white knight on e2 is tied down to defending a pawn on d4 and keeping a black knight out of f4. So here's one of the examples of why the h3 pawn move was weak. If this knight gets to f4, white can't chase it out with g3 because the h3 pawn is going to fall. And no matter how you slice it, white has lost a tempo that he couldn't get back. And that's why that rook pawn move was just not good. Okay. So even though it's even material, those two white pawns are just not good, d3 and d4. White shouldn't be trading queens. This just drops a pawn. Okay, what else can he do? Well, he's got a bad game, but you don't want to just give up a pawn. Let's see, white's redeployed the knight. Where is he going with it? Maybe he's going to come to f5 and start working on d4. Well, you know that white's not in a good position here, but trading queens will just hasten the end. And there goes one pawn. And white's repaired his pawn structure, but black's a pawn up. Has an active rook. He's got to make sure he doesn't get back rank checkmated, and that should do it. So there, h3 finally helped white. It stopped him from getting back rank mated. But I don't think white would have gotten into this position had he developed a couple of pieces way back when. Okay. Now it's just a matter of black figuring out a way to get those pawns marching up the board. One way to do it is get the king closer to the action. So white sees a pawn, but doing this gets his knight way out of play. This can't be good. You know, you're picking up a pawn, but how does this knight get back in play? In a lot of cases, it could get trapped. What if black plays rook c8? This shuts off the knight's retreat. The knight can't go to f8, and then the idea is rook h8, and white has to jettison it on g5 or f6 for a pawn. Now, taking a pawn can't be bad, but the king's a little covered, but still this knight's out of play. Well, actually now it's gonna win a pawn. Hooray! Now white's got even material. How does he lose this in just a few moves? Well, the answer is the white pawn majority won't run as fast as the black pawn majority. It's going to take white a while to get that mobilized. So white's got some meaningless checks. They're going to run out. Oh, look, he won another pawn. White's a pawn ahead, but his game is bad. Those knights move too slow to stop it. The only chance was to try to run one of them, but they're just moving too slowly. White's going to get that pawn down to a2, and it can't be stopped. White can't put his rook on A2 because he'll lose it, and he can't put it on E3 because he'll lose it. That black pawn is getting to the 7th rank, and nothing he can do can stop it. Gives a spy check, and that does it. Game, set, match. Let's go back for the fun of it, since I'm criticizing these moves so much. Okay, A3 and H3, they weren't. We'll allow A3. Okay, it provides a little shelter for the bishop. Maybe white wants to preserve it against a potential knight A5. But let's kind of play this out with where white saves the H3 move. We're going to give him one extra tempo, so I have to kind of juggle back and forth here so I don't miss the score. We're going to play some of white's moves and see if that extra tempo doesn't help. I'm sure we'll find it will help him. Okay, so let's castle right away, and then black plays knight f6. Now let's see, what was white doing. Let me scroll this up. D3, knight e2, bishop e3, c3. Okay, where is it? There it is. This one? No, not that one. We covered. Actually, I didn't look at that one. Okay, let's see. So d3, and he castles, and then knight e2, right? Was that what he was doing? Knight e2. The blacks will play rook, bishop d7, rook c8. Well, here I guess he doesn't want his bishop to get traded off. You see, bishop e3. Let's put it on f4 then instead. Rook c8. C3, d5. Now there's a threat, so take. Now instead of going back to a2, let's go to b3. I'm going to make an improvement for white. See, I want to get it to c2 and not b1, so I don't shut my rook in. Now let's see, what was black playing? Black was playing a6 actually trying to go somewhere with this. See, white has a good move coming. White's planning to play d4. And this makes a difference. So, for instance, if black plays a6 as he does in the game, this is a good move for white. See, the first point is if black takes on d5, white has the immediate blockade of the isolated queen pawn, and if he pushes by, white's on that long diagonal, and those people that like to chase bishops, knight h5, it just deactivates the knight. It can't be any good. There's might be some pressure on b2, but it's not really something white needs to worry about. The rook can guard it for a minute, and then essentially black has tied his queen down just to tie a rook down. That's not an even trade, right? b3 has some weaknesses to it. But not sure if black can really exploit that. So, see, there's another tempo gone. He's got a weakness on b3 as a result of a3, but at least, and you're doing it to preserve a bishop. Let's back this up. People that like to preserve bishops in any circumstance, we're going to throw a3 out this time. You know what we're going to do? We're going to let black take that bishop off. Okay, so we're going to castle now because we can. Now let's, instead of chasing the bishop right away, let's develop some pieces, okay? That'll happen on its own. Okay, now we're going to do this. Okay, fine. Well, actually, white can jettison it, so let's make black spend a tempo to take that away. Now white gets more development. Okay. Now we'll bring it back. Bingo. There went one bishop. But white's got some potential attacking chances here. He's getting ready to play the F4 move. Okay, F4 with the idea of an eventual F5. White's ahead in development. His queen is out. Black's isn't. His queen bishop is out. Black's isn't. For what it's worth, this is the kind of position that favors the knights. What diagonals do these bishops have? This bishop on e7 can't even move, right? This bishop has one square to go to, and from there it has two safe squares to go to. Whereas the white knights can do a lot of maneuvering, and white has an extra one. Let's carry this out a little bit. Well, I don't want to play there. I don't want to play b5. I don't want to make a backward pawn on the open file. Okay, as I was saying, here comes f4. Now, like I say, this is a position that the knights work nicely in. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to give black the other bishop. Oh my goodness, I got the two bishops. Oh yeah, you do, but I've got the attack. Okay, let's develop the white queen, or black queen. I always mix white and black up. Do you notice that? Okay, f5. Take it and give me a nice knight on f5. Black says nope. I'm gonna rooks belong on the c file. Why am I lagging? Stop lagging. There you go. Okay, let's shove another pawn. And let's shove another pawn. Oh, look, we can go attack a pawn of our own. Okay, protect it. I can't play queen e7. g5 is coming. I don't know. Looks to me like the two knights are a lot better than the bishops here. White's got a space advantage on the king side. What's black want to do? Weaken his position more with h6. G5 is coming. The knight can come into g4. The king can shuffle over to h1, h2, or f2, clearing room for the rooks to operate on. If you're playing these moves to save your bishops, you're wasting good opportunities. And if you don't take these opportunities, they won't come up. Okay? That's what separates. If you're 1500 trying to move into 1700, you change a few of these things, and you can start beating these 1700 players because they will not understand the long-range plans that you have. Okay, I'm going to stop this one. I'll do my best to figure out which games are yet need to have a video made for, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thanks so much for your time.